The morning sun cast long shadows across the wooden docks of Portsmouth as workers loaded cargo onto sailing ships that looked centuries old. Steam rose from primitive engines while men in rough clothing hauled ropes and shouted orders in accents that seemed authentic to any observer. From orbit, the scene below appeared exactly as intended, a world struggling with basic industrial technology. Barely beyond the age of steam and sail. Admiral Thane pressed his scaled hand against the viewing port of his flagship, watching the pathetic display below with growing amusement. His red eyes, adapted for the harsh light of 3 suns, easily picked out details that his sensors confirmed. Wooden vessels moved slowly across blue oceans, their metal components crude and inefficient. Smokestacks belched black clouds from what appeared to be coal-burning engines. Cities sprawled across continents with no apparent planning, their buildings reaching no higher than a few dozen stories. "Preliminary scan complete, Admiral," reported his aide, a younger Draknari whose scales still held the bright sheen of youth. "Surface technology indicates pre-space civilization. No energy signatures above basic electrical generation. No orbital installations detected. No weapons capable of reaching beyond atmosphere." Thane nodded slowly, his massive frame casting shadows in the dim red lighting preferred by his species. The hegemony had conquered 47 worlds in the past decade, each one adding resources and labor to their expanding empire. Most civilizations they encountered fell into predictable categories: primitive worlds like this one, moderately advanced societies that required standard conquest protocols, or the rare advanced civilizations that demanded full fleet engagement. Earth clearly belonged in the first category. "What about their military capabilities?" Thane asked, though he suspected the answer would be equally disappointing. "Surface conflicts detected in multiple regions," the aide replied, consulting his data pad. "Weapons appear to be projectile-based, chemically propelled. Some electromagnetic signatures suggest basic radar and communication systems. Vehicle technology seems limited to ground-based transport with primitive flight capabilities." Through the viewing port, Thane watched a formation of aircraft moving across a landmass. Even with his ship's powerful sensors, the flying machines appeared to be propeller-driven metal constructions that moved with laughable slowness. Their weapons, if they carried any, would be useless against even the lightest hegemony armor. "Population estimates?" he inquired. "Approximately 8 billion individuals across multiple continents, divided into numerous political entities, many appearing to be in various states of conflict with each other. No unified planetary government detected." Thane almost felt sorry for them. 8 billion lives on a world that couldn't defend itself against a single hegemony patrol ship. The humans below continued their daily routines, completely unaware that their entire civilization had been cataloged and evaluated in the span of a few hours. In the depths of the Pacific Ocean, nearly 2 miles beneath the surface where no alien sensor could penetrate, Admiral Hayes reviewed the same data from an entirely different perspective. The command center around him hummed with activity as hundreds of technicians monitored every transmission from the alien vessel above. Holographic displays showed the alien ship in perfect detail, its weapon systems, shield configurations, and crew complement all mapped and analyzed. "They're buying it completely," reported Commander Lewis, her voice carrying a note of satisfaction. "Their scans are registering exactly what we want them to see. The surface projection is holding perfectly." Hayes nodded, his weathered face showing no emotion as he studied the alien vessel. 20 years of planning had led to this moment. 20 years of preparing Earth for contact with hostile alien civilizations while maintaining the appearance of a primitive world. The technology required to fool advanced sensors while hiding humanity's true capabilities had pushed human science to limits they never imagined possible. "What about the surface teams?" Hayes asked. "All actors in position and performing flawlessly. The Portsmouth docks are running exactly as scheduled. London, Tokyo, New York, all major cities are maintaining the facade. Even our conflicts in the Middle East and Eastern Europe are proceeding according to script." The irony wasn't lost on Hayes. humanity had achieved technological capabilities that surpassed their wildest dreams, had unified under a single planetary government, and had built the most advanced military force in known space. Yet to maintain their deception, they staged conflicts and divisions that hadn't existed for decades. Above them, the alien commander was reaching conclusions that would ensure Earth's safety for years to come. Recommendation? Thane asked his tactical officer. Standard classification as Tier 7 Primitive World Admiral. No immediate strategic value. Population suitable for labor conscription in approximately 50 to 100 standard years, once they develop basic space technology. Current conquest would cost more in resources than any potential return. Agreed. Mark this system for future evaluation. We have more pressing targets in the Outer Rim territories. As the Draknari flagship prepared to depart, Thane took one last look at the blue world below. The humans continued their primitive activities, unaware of how close they had come to annihilation. Their wooden ships moved slowly across vast oceans, their cities showed no signs of advanced technology, and their military forces appeared laughably inadequate. The hegemony fleet engaged their faster-than-light drives and vanished into the cosmic void, leaving Earth apparently alone and defenseless. In the hidden command center, Admiral Hayes watched the alien departure with grim satisfaction. Phase 1 of humanity's greatest deception was complete. The aliens had seen exactly what they were meant to see, a primitive world of no strategic importance, a civilization decades away from space travel, a species that posed no threat to anyone. Signal all stations, Hayes commanded. Maintain surface protocols until further notice. Begin Phase 2 preparations immediately. Across Earth's surface, the carefully orchestrated display of primitive civilization continued. Steamships moved goods across oceans while hidden antimatter reactors powered cities from deep underground facilities. Propeller aircraft provided visible air traffic while hypersonic interceptors remained cloaked in high orbit. Radio transmissions carried simple messages while quantum communication networks coordinated humanity's true activities across the solar system. The deception was perfect, and it had to be. Humanity had learned long ago that the galaxy was a dangerous place, filled with species that viewed primitive worlds as resources to be exploited. But they had also learned that being underestimated was the greatest advantage any civilization could possess. The Draknari would return eventually, as would others of their kind. When they did, they would find the same primitive world they had cataloged today, right up until the moment Earth chose to reveal the truth about what humanity had really accomplished in the darkness between the stars. 6 months had passed since the first alien contact, and the wheat fields of Kansas swayed gently in the afternoon breeze as a silver disk descended from the cloudless sky. Farmers in the distance stopped their work to point and stare, just as they had been trained to do. The craft landed with a soft hum in the designated field, its hull gleaming with technology that appeared impossibly advanced to human eyes trained to see it that way. Commander Rex stepped out of his diplomatic vessel, breathing the clean air of Earth through his environmental suit. His pale blue skin and 4 arms marked him as a member of the Alterian species, one of the more peaceful races within the hegemony. Unlike the warlike Draknari, Alterians preferred negotiation and trade to conquest, making them ideal for first contact situations with primitive civilizations. The reception committee was exactly what Rex expected. A small group of humans approached on foot, their leader wearing what appeared to be the finest clothing their civilization could produce. The fabric looked rough by galactic standards, and the man's simple appearance suggested limited manufacturing capabilities. Behind him walked several others, including what appeared to be military advisors carrying primitive projectile weapons. "Welcome to Earth," said President Williams, extending his hand in the local greeting gesture that Rex had studied during his approach. "I am James Williams, elected leader of the United States of America, one of Earth's major nations." Rex returned the gesture carefully, noting how the human's hand felt soft and weak compared to the hardened appendages of spacefaring species. I am Commander Rex of the Hegemony Diplomatic Corps. I bring greetings from the civilized galaxy. Williams smiled, with what appeared to be genuine nervousness. We are honored by your visit, Commander. Since your people first observed our world, we have wondered if you might return. We have so many questions. I imagine you do, Rex replied kindly. The humans gathered around his ship with expressions of wonder and barely contained excitement. Their leader gestured toward a collection of primitive ground vehicles waiting nearby. Would you honor us by visiting our capital? We have prepared accommodations and would be grateful for the opportunity to learn more about the galaxy beyond our world. The journey to Washington took several hours in vehicles that Rex found cramped and inefficient. The humans seemed proud of their transportation technology, pointing out features that would have been considered obsolete by galactic standards thousands of years ago. Along the route, Rex observed cities that appeared to be struggling with basic infrastructure. Power lines stretched between crude poles, roads showed signs of constant repair, and the architecture suggested a civilization that had not yet mastered efficient construction techniques. In the hidden command center beneath the Pacific, Admiral Hayes watched every moment of the aliens' journey through. Quantum-encrypted feeds from cameras disguised as everything from streetlights to birds. The level of detail in humanity's deception was staggering. Every building the aliens saw had been carefully designed to appear primitive while concealing advanced technology. Every vehicle on the roads was either genuinely antique or a perfect replica. Every human the commander encountered was playing their role in the greatest theatrical performance in history. He's buying every detail, reported Commander Lewis. Psychological analysis indicates genuine sympathy for our supposed limitations. He actually feels sorry for us. Hayes nodded grimly. The Alterians were known for their compassionate nature, which made them both easier to deceive and more dangerous. In their own way, a warlike species might conquer Earth quickly and be done with it. The Alterians would want to help, to uplift humanity gradually, which would make maintaining the deception far more difficult over time. The White House meeting room had been specially prepared for this encounter. The furniture was real wood, crafted by artisans to appear impressive to human eyes while seeming primitive to galactic standards. The lighting came from bulbs that flickered slightly, suggesting unstable power generation. Even the air conditioning had been adjusted to seem inadequate, making the room uncomfortably warm. President Williams sat across from Commander Rex, flanked by General Stone and Secretary of Technology Dr. Adams. The human officials carried notebooks, made of actual paper and wrote with primitive pens, asking questions that revealed both intelligence and technological limitations. "Commander, we must ask," Williams began carefully. "Are there other civilizations in the galaxy? Are we alone?" Rex's expression showed patience and kindness. "You are far from alone, President Williams. The galaxy contains thousands of spacefaring civilizations, many of them far older and more advanced than your world. The hegemony represents an alliance of over 300 species working together for mutual benefit and protection." Dr. Adams leaned forward eagerly. "What kind of technologies do these civilizations possess? We have barely managed to achieve flight, and our space program is still in its infancy." "Your curiosity is admirable," Rex replied. "Most advanced civilizations have mastered faster-than-light travel, energy generation beyond your current capabilities, and medical technologies that can extend life far beyond your natural spans. Many of our member species live for thousands of your years." General Stone shifted uncomfortably in his chair. "Commander, if there are so many advanced civilizations, are there any that might be hostile to a world like ours?" Rex considered the question carefully. "I will be honest with you, General. The galaxy can be dangerous for primitive worlds. There are species that view developing civilizations as resources to be exploited. However, the hegemony exists partly to protect worlds like yours from such threats. What would such protection require?" Williams asked, his voice carrying exactly the right note of desperation mixed with hope. "Nothing beyond your capabilities," Rex assured him. The hegemony asks only for friendship and eventual participation in galactic commerce when your world is ready. We might establish a small monitoring station in your outer solar system, purely for defensive purposes. In return, we could provide limited technological assistance to help your civilization develop safely. In the depths of the ocean, Hayes listened to every word while studying detailed analyses of the alien commander's psychology, biology, and technology. Human scientists were reverse engineering alien systems in real time, discovering that hegemony technology, while advanced by the standards they displayed, was actually centuries behind humanity's true capabilities. The meeting continued for hours, as the humans played their parts perfectly. They asked for medical knowledge to help cure diseases that had been eliminated decades ago. They begged for energy technologies that they had surpassed before achieving interstellar flight. They expressed wonder at scientific principles that human children learned in elementary school. Rex found himself genuinely moved by their eagerness to learn and improve their condition. These humans showed intelligence and curiosity despite their technological limitations. Given time and guidance, they might become valuable members of the galactic community. "Commander," Williams said as the meeting drew to a close, "would it be possible for some of our people to visit your ship? Our scientists would be grateful for any knowledge you could share." "Of course," Rex replied warmly. "I would be honored to show your people what we have accomplished. Perhaps seeing our technology will inspire your own development." The tour of the alien vessel provided exactly the intelligence humanity needed. Human volunteers, carefully selected and trained, marveled at displays of technology while hidden sensors recorded every detail. The aliens' faster-than-light drive, their energy systems, their defensive capabilities, all were analyzed and found to be inferior to human equivalents. As Rex prepared to depart, he carried with him gifts that the humans had presented, samples of metals they claimed were rare and valuable, artistic works that showed primitive but appealing creativity, and recordings of music that revealed cultural sophistication despite technological limitations. "I will recommend that the hegemony establish formal diplomatic relations with Earth," Rex told Williams during their final meeting. "Your world shows great promise, and we look forward to watching your civilization develop." The alien craft lifted silently from the Kansas field and disappeared into the star-filled sky, leaving behind a world that appeared exactly as primitive as it had 6 months earlier. Rex's final report classified Earth as a developing world with potential, recommending minimal interference and gradual introduction to galactic civilization over the course of several centuries. Deep beneath the Pacific, Admiral Hayes reviewed the intelligence gathered during the aliens' visit. Humanity now possessed complete technical specifications for hegemony technology, detailed psychological profiles of their diplomatic methods, and confirmation that their deception remained absolutely convincing. "Phase 2 complete," Hayes announced to his command staff. "Begin preparations for Phase 3, and signal our deep space monitoring stations to watch for other alien visitors. The hegemony won't be the only power interested in Earth." The greatest performance in human history continued, with a planet of 8 billion actors playing their parts in a deception that would determine the fate of their species among the stars. 2 years after first contact, the emergency session of the Hegemony High Council convened in the crystal halls of their capital world. Nexus Prime, the assembled representatives from dozens of species sat in grim silence as holographic displays showed the devastation spreading across the galaxy's outer rim. Red markers indicated conquered worlds, yellow showed systems under attack, and the growing sea of crimson painted a picture of impending disaster. Fleet Admiral Corvin of the Drakneri stood before the assembly, his battle-scarred hide bearing fresh wounds from the latest engagement. "The Vorth Collective has broken through our defensive lines in the Epsilon sector. 12 more worlds have fallen in the past month alone. Their bioships are adapting to our weapons faster than we can develop countermeasures." The Vorth Collective represented every spacefaring civilization's worst nightmare. Unlike other hostile species that sought conquest or resources, the Vorth consumed entire biospheres, converting all organic matter into more of themselves. Their ships were living creatures, growing and adapting with each battle. Their ground forces were nightmare amalgamations of absorbed species, retaining the knowledge and abilities of every civilization they had devoured. "What are our current fleet strengths?" asked Counselor Vera, her crystalline form refracting the chamber's light into prismatic patterns. "We have lost 30% of our total naval capacity," Corvan replied grimly. "The Vorth don't just destroy our ships, they absorb them. Every vessel we lose makes them stronger while weakening us. At current rates of attrition, we will lose the ability to mount effective resistance within 18 months. Murmurs of despair rippled through the assembly. The hegemony had dominated this region of the galaxy for over 1,000 years, their combined fleets representing the pinnacle of military might. The idea that they might face extinction was almost unthinkable. "What about conscription from primitive worlds?" suggested Counselor Drac, his scaled head turning toward the military section. Surely the non-aligned systems could provide personnel for ground operations. Corvan's expression showed distaste for the suggestion, but he nodded reluctantly. "Desperation may require such measures. We have cataloged several worlds with large populations that could provide soldiers. The primitive species won't be effective against Vorth bioforms, but they could serve as diversions during evacuation operations." In the back of the chamber, Fleet Captain Rex listened to the discussion with growing unease. The Alterian commander had spent the past 2 years filing regular reports about various primitive worlds, including detailed assessments of their potential military value. One world in particular came to mind, the blue planet called Earth, with its 8 billion inhabitants and their curious eagerness to learn about galactic civilization. As the session concluded with authorization for emergency conscription protocols, Rex found himself volunteering for the mission he dreaded. "Council members, I request permission to return to the primitive worlds under my jurisdiction. If we must ask these species to fight, they deserve honest information about what they face." Earth had changed in subtle ways since Rex's last visit. The humans seemed more confident. Their technology had advanced noticeably, and President Williams greeted him with less of the desperate eagerness that had marked their first encounters. The White House meeting room still seemed primitive by galactic standards, but something in the atmosphere felt different. "Commander Rex," Williams said warmly, "welcome back to Earth. I hope the galaxy has been treating you well." "I'm afraid I bring troubling news, Mr. President," Rex replied, his usual diplomatic composure strained by the magnitude of what he had to request. "The hegemony faces an existential threat. A hostile species called the Vorth Collective is systematically destroying civilizations across the galaxy. Our fleets are losing the war." Williams' expression grew serious. "I'm sorry to hear that, Commander. How can Earth help? We're still a primitive world, barely beginning to explore space." Rex struggled with the words, knowing how they would sound. "The Hegemony High Council has authorized emergency conscription from allied worlds. We need soldiers, President Williams. Millions of them. Your people may not have advanced technology, but they have courage and intelligence. We're asking Earth to contribute military personnel for the war effort." The silence stretched uncomfortably as Williams appeared to consider the request. General Stone shifted in his chair, while Dr. Adams made notes with her primitive pen. Finally, Williams spoke. "This is a grave request, Commander. You're asking us to send our people to fight in a war between civilizations we barely understand, using technology we can't even comprehend. What assurance do we have that our soldiers won't simply be thrown away?" "I won't lie to you," Rex replied honestly. "Your people would face terrible danger. The Vorth are unlike anything in your experience. But the alternative is the eventual extinction of all life in this galaxy, including Earth. At least by joining the fight, your world stands a chance." William stood and walked to the window, appearing to stare out at the primitive city beyond. "I need time to consider this, Commander. This decision affects the lives of millions of our people. I must consult with other world leaders and our military commanders." "Of course," Rex said, relieved that the human leader wasn't rejecting the request outright. I understand the magnitude of what we're asking. Take the time you need. As Rex departed for his ship, he failed to notice the subtle changes in Earth's behavior. Hidden sensors tracked every detail of his vessel's capabilities. Quantum communication networks carried his words to command centers across the planet within nanoseconds. The hegemony's desperate situation was analyzed by strategists who had been preparing for exactly this scenario for decades. In the deep Ocean Command Center, Admiral Hayes reviewed the intelligence with his senior staff. The Vorth Collective represented a threat that humanity had anticipated and prepared for, but their arrival timeline was ahead of projections. Analysis confirms that the hegemony is losing the war badly, reported Commander Lewis. The Vorth biotechnology is adaptive but not beyond our countermeasures. However, their rate of expansion suggests they'll reach our sector within 6 months. Are our deep space assets in position? Hayes asked. All monitoring stations are operational and undetected. We have full intelligence on Vorth ship movements, tactics, and capabilities. Our fleet disposition is complete and ready for activation on your command. Hayes studied the tactical displays showing the true scope of humanity's preparations. Hidden bases throughout the solar system house fleets that dwarf the combined navies of the hegemony. Weapons platforms disguised as asteroids waited in perfect ambush positions. Soldiers trained with technology that made the Vorth look primitive by comparison. What's our assessment of optimal timing for revelation? Computer models suggest maximum strategic advantage. If we allow the Vorth to reach Earth's vicinity before dropping our masquerade, this will position us to eliminate their advanced forces while simultaneously demonstrating our capabilities to any surviving hegemony witnesses. The plan was audacious even by human standards. Instead of revealing their true nature and joining the Galactic War as allies, humanity would maintain their deception until the moment when their intervention would have maximum impact. They would allow the universe to see Earth as helpless prey right up until the moment they demonstrated that humanity was actually the apex predator. On the surface, the elaborate charade continued. World leaders held emergency sessions to debate Rex's request. Military commanders reviewed their primitive forces and expressed grave doubts about sending human soldiers against alien threats. Media outlets broadcast worried discussions about humanity's role in a galactic war they couldn't possibly understand. Rex remained in orbit, filing daily reports about Earth's deliberations. The humans were taking their time, as expected from a primitive civilization facing an incomprehensible choice. Their weapons were still laughably inadequate. Their space technology remained minimal, and their unity remained questionable as different nations debated among themselves. What Rex couldn't detect were the final preparations taking place across human space. Hidden shipyards completed the last vessels of humanity's secret fleet. Soldiers who had trained for decades in technologies beyond alien comprehension took their positions. Scientists who had surpassed the combined knowledge of galactic civilization made final adjustments to weapon systems that existed only in theoretical frameworks for other species. The Vorth Collective continued their advance, consuming world after world as they approached the region of space containing an apparently helpless blue planet. Their scouts had detected the primitive civilization and marked it as an easy target for organic material harvesting. Neither the Vorth nor the hegemony suspected that Earth's inhabitants had been watching their war from the beginning, analyzing every battle, studying every tactic, and preparing countermeasures that would end the conflict decisively. The stage was set for humanity's greatest revelation. But first, they had to allow their enemies to believe they had found easy prey. The deception that had protected Earth for years was about to serve its ultimate purpose, luring the greatest threat the galaxy had ever known into the trap that would destroy them. The first sign of the Vorth Collective's arrival came not as an invasion fleet, but as silence. Deep space monitoring stations throughout the outer solar system simply stopped transmitting. Their signals cut off one by one as something vast and hungry moved through the darkness between worlds. On Earth's surface, primitive radio telescopes detected nothing unusual, their limited range and crude technology unable to perceive the approaching nightmare. Fleet Captain Rex paced nervously on the bridge of his diplomatic vessel, watching his instruments register massive hyperspace disturbances beyond Pluto's orbit. His ship's sensors, advanced by hegemony standards, could barely make sense of what they detected. The Vorth didn't travel in conventional ships, but in living organisms the size of moons, creatures that had once been entire ecosystems before, being absorbed and transformed into instruments of consumption. Emergency transmission to Hegemony Command, Rex ordered his communications officer. Vorth collective forces have entered the Sol system. Estimated arrival at inhabited worlds in less than 6 hours. Immediate evacuation required for primitive population. The response came within minutes, carrying the weight of defeat. Fleet Captain Rex, no evacuation assets are available. All hegemony forces are engaged in defensive operations. You are authorized to preserve yourself and your crew. The primitive world is considered expendable. Rex stared at the message with horror. 8 billion human lives were about to be extinguished, and there was nothing he could do to save them. His single diplomatic ship carried enough space for perhaps 100 evacuees. A meaningless gesture against the scale of the coming massacre, he opened a communication channel to Earth's surface. President Williams, I need to speak with you. Immediately, the situation has become critical. The response came from the White House with unusual speed. Williams appeared on the communication screen, his expression calm despite the magnitude of the threat. Commander Rex, I assume you're calling about our uninvited visitors. You know about them? Rex asked, surprised. Mr. President, you need to begin immediate evacuation procedures. The Vorth Collective has entered your solar system. Every person on your planet is in mortal danger. Williams smiled with what seemed like inappropriate composure. Commander, I appreciate your concern for our safety, but I believe you may be surprised by how this situation develops. Before Rex could respond, his sensor officer called out in alarm. Sir, I'm detecting massive energy signatures throughout the system. Something is powering up. Rex turned to his displays and watched in stunned disbelief as space itself seemed to come alive around Earth. Asteroids that had orbited peacefully for millions of years suddenly blazed with energy signatures that dwarfed his ship's entire power output. The moon's surface cracked open in geometric patterns, revealing structures that had been hidden beneath artificial camouflage. Mars showed similar transformations as installations that had never appeared on any scan revealed themselves in brilliant displays of controlled energy. What is this? Rex whispered, his voice barely audible. The answer came as hundreds. Then thousands of vessels began appearing throughout the solar system. Ships decloaked from positions where nothing had been detected. Moments before, massive dreadnoughts emerged from behind planets where they had somehow remained invisible to all sensors. Carrier groups dropped stealth fields in the asteroid belt, revealing fleet concentrations that exceeded anything in hegemony space. Rex's tactical displays couldn't process what they were seeing. The ships appearing around him bore designs unlike anything in known galactic civilization. Their hulls seemed to bend light itself. Their energy signatures operated on principles that his instruments couldn't analyze, and their weapon systems registered as theoretical impossibilities. President Williams, Rex said weakly into his communicator, what is happening? Commander, I believe it's time for introductions, Williams replied calmly. I'd like you to meet Admiral Hayes, commander of Earth's Defense Forces. A new voice came through the communication channel, carrying an authority that made Rex instinctively straighten. Fleet Captain Rex, this is Admiral Hayes of the Human Space Navy. We appreciate your efforts to warn us about the approaching threat. But I think you'll find that the situation is somewhat different than you imagined. Through his ship's sensors, Rex watched the approaching Vorth biofleet with new understanding. The massive living ships that had consumed dozens of worlds continued their advance, completely unaware that they were flying into the most sophisticated trap in galactic history. Their organic sensors, adapted to detect conventional technology, Registered Earth's solar system exactly as it had appeared for years, a primitive world with minimal defenses. Admiral Hayes, Rex managed to say, "How is this possible?" "Our surveys showed your civilization was barely beyond industrial age technology. Your ships, your weapons, none of this should exist." "Fleet Captain, humanity has been spacefaring for longer than most civilizations in your hegemony have had written language," Hayes replied. "What you observed on Earth was carefully designed to give exactly the impression we wanted to create. We needed time to study potential threats and prepare appropriate responses." The Vorth biofleet reached the outer solar system, their massive forms blotting out stars as they advanced toward Earth. Their scanning organisms detected what appeared to be a helpless world inhabited by primitive bipeds, exactly the kind of easy prey they had consumed countless times before. Rex watched his displays in fascination and horror as the first Vorth ship encountered humanity's true defenses. The massive bioform, larger than most moons, approached what appeared to be empty space near Jupiter's orbit. Without warning, it simply ceased to exist. No explosion, no debris field, no energy discharge. One moment a planet-sized organism was there, the next moment there was nothing but empty space. "What did you do to it?" Rex asked. "Quantum disruption." "Torpedo," Hayes replied matter-of-factly. "We discovered that Vorth bioships maintain coherence through quantum entanglement networks. Disrupt the entanglement and the organism loses molecular cohesion. Very clean, very efficient." More Vorth bioships met similar fates as they advanced through the solar system. Some encountered directed energy weapons that seemed to phase through their adaptive shielding and tear apart their organic hulls at the atomic level. Others were struck by kinetic projectiles moving at significant fractions of light speed, weapons that delivered more energy than most stars produced in a year. The remaining Vorth forces, sensing unprecedented resistance, began to adapt their tactics. Their bioships started evolving new defensive capabilities, growing armor that could deflect energy weapons and developing sensory organs that could detect the previously invisible human ships. "Impressive," Hayes commented as he watched the alien adaptation. "They're faster at biological modification than our intelligence suggested." "No matter, we prepared for that possibility as well." Rex watched in amazement as human ships began employing tactics and technologies that seemed to violate basic physics. Vessels that had been destroyed reformed themselves moments later, their hulls reconstructing from quantum foam. Weapons fired through dimensional rifts, bypassing the normal limitations of space and time. Some human ships simply stepped sideways, out of normal reality, emerging behind Vorth bioforms that had no defense against attacks from outside conventional spacetime. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted less than an hour. When it ended, the Vorth biofleet that had terrorized the galaxy for months had been completely eliminated. Not one organism survived to carry intelligence about humanity's capabilities back to the collective's main forces. "Fleet Captain Rex," Admiral Hayes said as the last energy signatures faded from sensors, "I believe we need to have a longer conversation. Would you be willing to accompany my ship to Earth's surface? I think President Williams has some things he'd like to discuss with you about humanity's role in galactic affairs." Rex looked around his bridge at displays that still couldn't fully process what they had witnessed. His instruments registered impossible energy readings, detected weapons that operated on theoretical principles, and tracked ships that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "Admiral Hayes, Rex said slowly, exactly how advanced is human civilization?" "Fleet Captain, your hegemony has been fighting this war all wrong. You've been trying to match the Vorth ship for ship, fleet for fleet, using conventional tactics against an enemy that adapts to conventional approaches. We've been preparing to end it." As Rex's ship was guided toward Earth by vessels that made hegemony dreadnoughts look like primitive sailing ships, he began to understand the true scope of humanity's deception. They hadn't been hiding their technology to avoid conquest. They had been studying every civilization in the galaxy, analyzing every potential threat, and preparing countermeasures that would ensure their survival against any force that might challenge them. The primitive world he had pitied was actually the most advanced civilization in known space, and they had been watching the galactic community with the patient attention of apex predators, deciding whether their neighbors posed any real threat. Rex realized that first contact with humanity hadn't been about them joining galactic civilization. It had been about galactic civilization meeting its new masters, whether they knew it or not. The human ship that escorted Rex to Earth's surface defied every principle of aerospace engineering he understood. It moved without visible propulsion, generated no heat signature despite obvious energy expenditure, and seemed to exist partially outside normal spacetime. As they descended through Earth's atmosphere, Rex saw the planet's true nature revealed. For the first time, cities that had appeared primitive from orbit showed their actual complexity as energy. Fields dropped and holographic camouflage dissolved. Structures reached kilometers into the sky, their surfaces alive with technologies that manipulated matter at the quantum level. Transportation networks moved through dimensions that folded space, allowing instant travel between continents. The entire planet hummed with power generation that tapped directly into zero-point energy fields. President Williams met them in what Rex now recognized as a command center that had been disguised as a simple government building. The walls displayed real-time tactical information from across the galaxy, showing Vorth fleet movements, hegemony defensive positions, and human force deployments that spanned dozens of star systems. "Welcome to Earth's actual surface, fleet." "Captain Rex," Williams said, no longer maintaining the facade of primitive leadership, "I believe Admiral Hayes has some information that will interest your superiors." Admiral Hayes appeared on the main display, his image transmitted from a command ship that existed somewhere beyond conventional detection. "Fleet Captain Rex, I want you to understand what you witnessed today. The Vorth biofleet you saw destroyed represented only a scouting force, but it was larger than anything your hegemony has successfully engaged. We eliminated it in under an hour without losing a single vessel." Rex found his voice with difficulty. "How long have you been capable of this level of warfare?" "Humanity achieved faster-than-light travel over 2 centuries ago," Hayes replied. "We've been exploring the galaxy ever since, observing civilizations, studying their technologies, and preparing for the inevitable contact. When we discovered the existence of hostile species like the Vorth, we decided that appearing primitive was our best protection while we developed appropriate countermeasures." The tactical displays around the room showed the true scope of human space operations. Hidden bases existed in dozens of star systems, their locations chosen to provide complete intelligence coverage of galactic civilization. Monitoring stations disguised as natural phenomena tracked every major fleet movement. Manufacturing facilities built into asteroid fields produced weapons and ships using technologies that existed only in theoretical frameworks for other species. "The hegemony has been fighting the Vorth for 2 years, Williams added. "During that time, we've observed every battle, analyzed every tactic, and identified every weakness in both civilizations' approaches. The Vorth adapt to conventional attacks, but they've never encountered weapons that operate outside their biological understanding." Rex studied the displays showing current Vorth positions throughout the galaxy. Their biofleets continued to advance on multiple fronts, consuming worlds and growing stronger with each victory. "Can you stop them? All of them?" "Fleet Captain, observe," Hayes said as new images appeared on the screens. Rex watched in amazement as human ships began materializing throughout Vorth-controlled space. Not dozens or hundreds, but thousands of vessels that had somehow traveled undetected across vast distances. They moved with precision that suggested perfect coordination, appearing simultaneously in 12 different star systems where major Vorth biofleets were located. The engagements that followed redefined Rex's understanding of space warfare. Human ships used tactics that seemed impossible, weapons that fired through folded space to strike targets in different dimensions, defensive systems that absorbed attacks and converted them into additional firepower, and propulsion methods that allowed instant repositioning across interstellar distances. In the Kepler system, a Vorth biofleet that had been consuming the remains of a hegemony colony world found itself surrounded by human dreadnoughts that materialized from quantum foam. The massive organic ships, each the size of a small moon, began their standard adaptation protocols, growing new armor and weapons to counter the unexpected threat. The human response was swift and final. Instead of engaging in conventional combat, the human ships generated what their tactical displays, labeled as dimensional shear fields. The Vorth bioships, along with everything else in a 100-kilometer radius, simply ceased to exist in normal spacetime. They weren't destroyed in any conventional sense. They were edited out of reality itself. Impressive technology, Rex said weakly. But surely the Vorth have main fleets that are larger than these scouting forces. They do, Hayes agreed. Or rather, they did. The displays shifted to show the Vorth home systems, the core worlds where their collective had originated. Rex expected to see massive biofleets being assembled for a counterattack. Instead, he saw empty space where entire solar systems had once existed. We've been preparing for this war since we first detected the Vorth collective 3 years ago, Hayes explained. While they were fighting the hegemony, we were studying their biology, their technology, and their behavioral patterns. We identified their origin points, their reproduction centers, and their command organisms. Eliminating them required precise timing and absolute commitment. Rex stared at the tactical displays in growing horror and amazement. You destroyed their entire civilization. We terminated a galaxy-wide threat to all organic life, Williams corrected. The Vorth collective consumed entire biospheres, converting all living matter into extensions of their hive mind. They represented an existential threat not just to individual species, but to the concept of biological diversity itself. The scope of what humanity had accomplished was staggering. In less than 6 hours, they had eliminated a threat that had been terrorizing galactic civilization for years. They had done so with such thoroughness that no trace of the Vorth collective remained anywhere in known space. Fleet Captain Rex, Hayes said, I need you to transmit a message to your hegemony. High Council? Earth is claiming protectorate status over this entire galactic sector. Any civilization that wishes our protection against future threats need only request it. Those who prefer to maintain their independence are welcome to do so, but they should understand that we will not tolerate any attempts to exploit or attack primitive worlds. Rex struggled to process the implications. You're declaring sovereignty over thousands of star systems. We're accepting responsibility for the safety of this region of space, Williams clarified. Humanity has the capability to defend these systems against any threat, and we believe that galactic civilization will be more stable under our guidance. The hegemony is welcome to continue governing its member worlds, but major policy decisions will require our approval. The message was clear. Humanity wasn't asking to join galactic civilization as equals. They were announcing that they had become the dominant power and that existing governments would continue only at their sufferance. Rex looked around the command center, noting details that revealed the true extent of human advancement. Holographic displays showed real-time information from across the galaxy, updated faster than light-speed communication should allow. Technical readouts described technologies that operated on principles beyond his understanding. Even the air he breathed had been subtly modified to optimize his biological functions without his knowledge. What about the primitive facade? Rex asked. Will you continue pretending to be a developing world? That depends on how quickly galactic civilization adapts to new realities, Hayes replied. If existing governments can transition smoothly to their new roles, we see no reason to disrupt established social structures. Many species will find it easier to accept gradual changes rather than sudden revelation of how completely their worldview was mistaken. As Rex prepared to depart Earth with his impossible message, he realized that everything he thought he knew about galactic civilization had been wrong. The primitive worlds that the hegemony had catalogued and dismissed were actually the most advanced species in known space. The technological superiority that had made the hegemony dominant for centuries was laughably obsolete compared to human capabilities. The greatest deception in galactic history was ending, but only because humanity had decided they no longer needed to hide. They had studied every potential threat, developed countermeasures against every possible enemy, and positioned themselves to control galactic civilization from the shadows for as long as necessary. Rex's final transmission to Hegemony Command would reshape the political structure of known space. This is Fleet Captain Rex reporting completion of diplomatic mission to Earth. The primitive world designation is incorrect. Humanity represents the most advanced civilization encountered to date. They have eliminated the Vorth collective threat and are claiming protectorate authority over this galactic sector. Recommend immediate compliance with their directives. The message would be dismissed as impossible, then investigated, then reluctantly accepted as reports confirmed the complete disappearance of Vorth forces throughout the galaxy. The hegemony would discover that their choice was simple: accept human guidance or face the same fate as the collective. Earth continued its rotation, its cities now openly displaying technologies that redefine the possible. Humanity had revealed their true nature not as conquerors but as the galaxy's new guardians, whether other civilizations wanted protection or not.